This episode is sponsored by Sourcing Playground. Sourcing Playground is an online platform making it easier for brands to connect with compliant, ethical, and sustainable manufacturers. Think Match.com, but for retail. You can post your project for free and let the suppliers come to you. On the platform, you can easily compare quotes and factory profiles to choose the right supplier for your brand. Sourcing Playground are offering a free upgrade to the Fashion Feed listeners, which means your project will only be viewed by the factories and hidden from public view. Go to www.sourcingplayground.com to check it out and mention the Fashion Feed in the chat box. Hi everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Fashion Feed for 2020. My name's Elizabeth Stiles and I'm the host of the Fashion Feed. If you've not heard from me before, hello, and if you're returning, welcome back. I'm a fashion brand consultant, having worked in the industry for about, I need to keep adding more numbers on as I get older, but I think it's like 12 or 13 years now. And I've worked at Next, Miss Selfridge, Asda, and in the buying departments, but then I've also worked on the supplier side as well, where I was an account manager / design manager for brands like New Look, River Island, Yours Clothing, Warehouse, Urban Outfitters. So if you've ever bought from any of these brands, there's a chance that I could have had a little input into what you've worn. I have been consulting now for just over a year and work one-to-one with independent brands and businesses with regards to their design, trends, sourcing, manufacturing, marketing, all the good stuff, and all the things that you've kind of are quite hard to find online as well, because a lot of the information is from having worked in the industry, and only from doing that do you know like the ins and outs of how the system works. So this episode is going to be a solo episode because a lot of you said that you really enjoyed the last one that I did about my career history. So this episode I wanted to talk about 2020 upcoming trends, and it will be really interesting to record it and then listen to it at the end of the year and see how much of it has come true. I sign up to so many newsletters by different publications online like Business of Fashion, Fashion United, Drapers, and also pay for a subscription for them because the information that you get is just so valuable and really worthwhile. So I take out some time each week in my calendar just to read through what's happening in the retail industry and staying up to date with the way customers are behaving. So I think that's really, really important. One of the things that I took from there was the fashion industry will grow by 3 to 4% in 2020, which is really great considering that it's kind of doom and gloom in the papers at the moment about retail. You know, there's these big department stores shutting down left, right and centre. But there is definitely hope for the independents, and I'm going to give you some tips and advice on how to be successful for 2020 by not following trends, but like staying relevant to the way things are going. The inspiration for this podcast was by a Business of Fashion article which I read recently called 10 Themes That Will Define the Fashion Agenda for 2020. And I think you have to pay for it. So unless you're a member, I thought it might be quite nice just to share some of the highlights that I've pulled out from there. But it's kind of like a mishmash of loads of different articles that I've read over the past few weeks. The first thing that I want to talk about is vintage clothing, resale. Obviously, the resale bag industry sort of started first. And I think bags is quite an easy one because they don't need washing. You can just sort of borrow a bag for the weekend or for the week or however long you want to keep it and then give it back and it's fine. We can rewear it. But I think the clothing side is going to take a little bit more persuasion with people because it's actually touching the body. And there's some quite sort of high intensive standards that we're going to need to put in place with regards to the washing in between wears and the back and forth of redelivering it. So even though they're not reproducing new products all the time, it isn't completely perfect with regards to sustainability because of the washing and the extra deliveries that it will entail. Now, obviously, the most sustainable thing to do is obviously buy what's already there. So whether that is renting something or looking at vintage. On the front cover of Vogue in Jan 2020, Taylor Swift has been seen in a 2005 Chanel jacket, which is quite a big, bold statement from Vogue. saying that it is cool to rewear your clothes and protect the planet and move away from fast fashion. Vintage is like the ultimate cool girl thing. I don't know if you've ever been in a nightclub toilet or something and said, "Oh, I love your dress, where's it from?" And she goes, "Oh, it's vintage." And you're like, "No, why? I could never ever have that." But, having a look at for yourself about how to buy vintage, there's loads and loads of tips and blogs online about the best stores and how to look. Like one of my friends who's really great at it said you've got to go with a purpose. You can't just sort of go browsing and going with an intention, trying stuff on obviously, and just really knowing the best places to go before you set out. So we've got resale and vintage, and under resale is sort of looking at different marketplaces that are out there at the moment, such as Depop, Facebook Marketplace, and then people are obviously reselling things on Etsy as well. Depop had a store space in Selfridges recently, which was really popular, so I can definitely see that coming back. And things that people are searching on Depop at the moment is really, really heavily centered around the noughties. So brands are looking to the noughties for inspiration, but if you go on Depop, you can buy the real thing. If anybody remembers the millennium bug, that is kind of the era that we're talking about. And, I was wearing butterfly clips, looking at bandanas, Timberland boots, combats and crop tops. Think about what All Saints used to wear, but also you can just go on Pinterest and search noughties fashion aesthetic, noughties fashion inspo, and loads of fun stuff comes up and you can just make a whole board. The next trend is gender neutrality, and going back to the idea of making your clothes last longer and getting more wear out of them. Styles are definitely getting simpler and more oversized as well. So things can be worn female or male, and it's more likely that you'll be able to clothes swap. You can say, "Oh, it's my boyfriend's," and steal his clothes and vice versa. I think also the idea of the fact things aren't as seasonal anymore. So not only are they more genderless, but they're also seasonless. And the clothes that are being produced are very, very versatile due to that. So my advice would be to get out of the idea of dropping a winter collection and a summer collection. Like, people aren't sat on the edge of their seat waiting for your new collection. They're waiting for new products that they can buy. So rather than, you want everything to sit nicely together as a capsule, as a range, so it looks nice on the website. You could do a nice photo shoot. But overall, you want to be able to provide your customer with product that they can wear all year round. I don't know about you, but I pretty much just wear jeans and t-shirt regardless of the weather. I might chuck a jumper on, or I might put sandals on instead of socks and trainers. But if you think about how you actually wear your clothes, you don't necessarily put the whole winter wardrobe away or the whole summer wardrobe. It's just hyper seasonal pieces that you might just dip in and out of, but your basic wardrobe pretty much stays the same all year round. Now, inspired by something completely different, I was listening to an Emma Gannon podcast recently, and she was saying that the link has been made between higher anxiety levels in people and the unstable government situation at the moment. And people don't really know what they should believe anymore, and they're feeling a little bit lost, and there's a lack of faith generally in the communities, which is why people are now looking towards brands for faith in something and to be able to believe in something, to be able to latch on to something and be a part of something, which is the most important one. Therefore, as a brand, you want to be able to start creating a community by pushing out what you are passionate about. You must stand for something as a brand in 2020. Even if you're working in hindsight, the Gen Z and millennials can smell authenticity from a mile away. If you stand for nothing, they're going to run, and advertising isn't going to get them back. And that was a quote from this Business of Fashion article that I read, and I thought that was so powerful. So I'm just going to read it again. Gen Z and millennials can smell authenticity from a mile away. If you stand for nothing, they're going to run, and advertising isn't going to get them back. I hear a lot of people just say, I'm going to try some ads, I'm going to push this, I'm going to push Facebook ads and Instagram ads and get more followers. But that is advertising, and I think as long as you're advertising for them to be going somewhere where there's a clear funnel for them to go through, whether it's like new product that you're launching, really easy checkout process, attention grabbing content, really persuasive calls to action, maybe a story about what your brand means to you, like it's got to be pushing them towards something rather than just saying buy this product. It's got to be more than that. You've got to be a part of something bigger as a brand in 2020. And human contact will become a luxury. You need to keep it in your business for as long as possible so people can talk about you, share your products, share your stories, and at the end of the day, it's not a trend, but the word of mouth marketing is super important. So to keep that human element in your business for as long as possible, whether it's hand signing your cards that go out in all your parcels, or whether you're jumping on IGTV every now and then just to remind your customers of who you are, sending them a personalised note on their newsletters, keeping yourself at the forefront of your customers' minds on a regular basis. The next, I'm going to put this in inverted commas, trend is sustainability. And the reason I don't like calling it a trend is because it is more of a movement. Like, you must have known this was one of the things that was coming, because everybody is talking about it. There has been modest growth within the fashion industry in sustainability, but I went to a talk recently and Susie Bubble, the blogger, was there, and she really summed it up so beautifully by saying that we're in a bit of a middle class echo chamber with regards to sustainability. We've still got such a long way to go, but it does need to be taken more seriously. And this was a quote from the Business of Fashion article. It says, next year, fashion players need to swap platitudes and promotional noise for meaningful action and regulatory compliance while facing up to consumer demand for transformational change. I recently did an IGTV video on my IGTV, funnily enough, about sustainability and how you can implement that really authentically within your business. So I would definitely recommend going over to have a look at that. Specifically with fabrics, there's going to be a lot of research and development on new fabrics with regards to animal alternatives. The problem with those is that they do tend to be plastic and less durable as well. So if you compared a pair of leather shoes that you've got to a pair that aren't, I would imagine the leather ones are going to last a much longer time. But with sustainability, it's so difficult because it really is based on people's personal values of what's ethical, what is sustainable, and it becomes a much bigger topic than just offering an organic cotton option within your business. There are plant-based options, but they're not really yet commercially viable. I saw last year that H&M were looking into using a sort of orange peel silk alternative, which was quite interesting, and I'm really excited to see that brands like that are using these plant alternatives, because the more that the bigger brands are doing it, it just makes it more affordable for others. Lastly, we're looking at experiences in general, and to begin with, we're going to be looking at in-store experiences. And just jumping back to the beginning where I was talking about Depop collaborating with Selfridges, it's not an obvious collaboration, but actually it does totally make sense because it's so relevant for now. And the way you could maybe incorporate this is doing Meet the Maker events. You could ask to be represented on panel talks. If you're stocked in local wholesale boutiques, you could maybe ask to go in and offer workshops or show people online how you can recreate some versions of your product at home. Obviously, you don't want to be giving away all your secrets, but just if you are a tie-dye specialist, maybe you could show how to tie-dye a print for your wall or something. So you can just really connect with your audience in different ways and bring them along on the journey about how they can get involved with your product as well. A big bit of news last year was that Lush shut down its main Instagram account, and they've opened up localized Instagram accounts for each of the areas or the stores that they have around the country. And I think it was just really interesting because you're creating content that's specific for the person that's going to go in there. If there's like the store manager, for example, and they're talking on stories, and then you go into your local store and then you see them there, you feel an instant connection and warmth with that brand. So really looking back again about what we were saying, that human experience and human contact will become a luxury in time, you want to be able to think about all the different ways that you can stay connected with your customer online, but also really importantly in person as well. I'm sure more recently a lot of you will have been advertised trade shows on Instagram for you to come along, because they're becoming less like business to business trade shows but also business to customer. And they are also on the bandwagon of experiential events and creating content. So it's not just buyers going along to see wholesale or brands going along to meet factories. There's so much content that's being put out there at these shows that you can go along. So if you found this interesting about what's happening in the industry, you should 100% get down to one of these trade shows. Just this year I'm speaking at Fashion SVP, Top Drawer, Pure London, so you can come along and say hello. They're usually twice a year, so around the beginning of the year and then mid-year as well. And it's just really great to get out and meet people and see a different side to the industry. I hope you found that useful. So just to recap, we're looking at vintage for 2020, resale, the noughties, gender neutrality, seasonless clothes. A brand must have values and stand for something, sustainability, research and development on new fabrics, and then definitely looking at experiences as well. So if you do decide to come along to one of the trade shows, I would love to meet you in person. So please come up and say hi and stay in touch. You can follow me on Instagram at Elizabeth Stiles UK, or you can take a look at my website, which is www.elizabethstiles.co.uk, and I'll be back in a fortnight with a new guest.